Hi, and welcome to the RoE Draft. I'm not very familiar with this format. I just thought I'd give it a whirl since it's one of the extra formats. I never drafted it when it was during its time, so I will just attempt to wing it. I did do one draft earlier, and I did pretty well in this one, in that one, so hopefully I can repeat that. With all the various the various archetypes that are available, I think keeping yourself open is probably the best thing. There's nothing in this pack that I find particularly amazing. I honestly think the best card in here is probably Narcolepsy, as it's just a solid removal spell that stops a lot of things, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that. Alright, in this pack the rare is gone, so we just have some uncommons to look at as well as everything else. At the moment, there's not terribly much that excites me in this pack. The most overall useful card is probably going to be the Nest Invader, which I'll go ahead and take here. I could take the Crusher, a blank 2/3, and it's to stay in blue isn't that worthwhile. I don't like Fleeting Distraction, as it's just a cantrip. I'd rather it do something. I mean, I guess it could maybe act as pseudo removal, but I don't think it's strong enough to do that. Alright, and here we got definitely a lot better cards. The rare once again is missing. This guy's not nearly as good as some of the other levelers, but he's still pretty solid. Just on a little slow side. Of the cards here, I definitely think probably the best one is the Drake Umbra, as giving them makes them huge and giving it flying is pretty big. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that. As nothing else in here really jumps out as me. I mean, I could take, like I said, the Champion Drake, or I guess, sorry, as I said, the Skywatcher Adept. The Champion Drake is also an option, but not one I'm particularly fond of myself. Prophetic Prism is also an okay pick, but I think the Drake Umbra is definitely the best one. And here I'm probably going to take another Narcolepsy, as there's some interesting cards here. Nothing that super fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this is probably the best card other than the Narcolepsy in here, just because it can kill some things that are useful. But the Narcolepsy is definitely the best card overall, I would say. Alright, so far I've just noticed the packs have all been pretty mediocre. There's been nothing really amazing going on in any of them. As far as what's available at this point, I'm not even sure what I would take at this point, to be honest. I don't think I'll run it, but I'll probably grab the Eel Umbra, just as like I said, I'm not familiar with this form as much as I should be, but that's what makes it fun, right? What's really surprised me so far is the packs have been very mediocre from what I've seen. There's been nothing that's been super amazing. Here I'll probably just take this. It's a decent pump spell that can act as removal in the right situation, so I'll just grab that. So in here, there's not much also. Counter spells for 4, I just generally don't like. I'm not a big fan of counterspell limited myself anyway, as there's nothing worse than top decking it when they just play their big bomb. But I do understand the value of them at times. This rare is interesting. If you end up in a slow, grindy game, it can be useful, but it's still very mediocre. With what's in here, though, I'm probably going to take it, as there's just nothing else that really jumps out at me either. And I mean, at this point, it kind of looks like the blue's dried up, so I might swerve out of that, but at the same time, all of the colors have been, or all the packs have been pretty mediocre to begin with. I'm not even sure which one's the right choice here. I'll go ahead and grab the Arsonist, even though and see if I swing into red, but I don't really like the Rune Servitor. It's card disadvantage, so not something I'm a huge fan of doing. Since these both came back, it kind of makes me think black might be open, so I'll grab this and we'll see if I change from black to green in a little bit here. And at this point, I'm okay taking a blue 2-3. From what I'm seeing, though, it really just seems like these packs were very mediocre and nothing too crazy about them to begin with, so it could easily be that that blue was open. It's just not good cards out there. And at this point, none of these cards really matter. You might run some here, but I don't see much point in discussing them. You generally pick what's closest to your colors at that point, or what's the worst to see. I'm not familiar enough with the format to know how much of a liability that is, but if someone played a strong aggro deck, you could have reason to board that in. So the cards we have here, none of these ones are completely unplayable. Obviously, I want to get better cards and define what colors I'll be better. Alright, and here's pack 2. I've heard that this can be a decent win condition, but it seems like a reach for me to begin with. There's pretty much no reason I'd ever play this one, just because you're paying 7 mana to get 5 mana, or a few creatures. Sure, there's times where it can be good, but it's not something I would ever really want to first pick. The Invokers cycle's actually really good across the board for the most part. So I mean, at this point, I would say I'm choosing between this guy and this guy. I don't have enough. Actually, I have very few instants and sorceries. I have Ancient Stirrings and Might of the Masses, and then that's it for instants and sorceries. My Mnemonic Wall's not that great. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the Invoker though, as it has a large potential to take over a game. So what I'm doing right now is I'm checking the price on Consume the Meek. I'm not familiar enough with the set to know the prices either. I feel like it's more genuine for me to just pick the expensive card if that's what everyone else would do anyway, as that's more accurate to how everyone else will play. Of the cards here, Seagate Oracle's probably the best. I mean, there's no green card in here, so maybe it was taken, or perhaps there just wasn't one opened in here. I don't really like this guy. He's just 9 mana for a 7/7, which in this set isn't that great. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just take the Seagate Oracle. This is an interesting card. I had someone play against me in the first draft I did, and I just never blocked it, and it never did anything because my guys flew at the time. getting past third pick Dawn Glow Invoker is a very interesting thing, as it's considered to be White's most powerful common, and every game I played it and had 8 mana, I obviously won. Even my opponent had one, I was able to pull out a win. There's nothing else in here that's really that tempting anyway. I don't have any leveling creatures yet, so I don't want to go in on that, especially over something as powerful as the Invoker. And that also tells me the 2 players to my right are almost definitely not in white. So I could eschew green at this point, since I'm primarily blue. And this here is a 7 mana, probably do very little spell. And then of these ones, I would definitely say this guy's the best. He's very strong. I mean, getting a Sarah Angel's pretty huge, and it does seem white will probably be open, so I will grab that. This guy is interesting. It works out really well if my opponent's blue. Otherwise, I think it's pretty mediocre. As just a wall for the first 10 mana you invest into it. So here I would be choosing between Deprive and the Wild Heart Invoker. I think in this case I'm going to take the Deprive, as I don't know if I'll go white or green. I may go 3 if I can get a few Evolving Wilds or Prismatic Prisms. So here's a few options for me to just basically splash white if I keep going green, which I think is actually a pretty decent plan. I could also take the Sea Beyond. I do like card draw, as if you draw more cards than your opponent, you tend to win. But in this case, I think I'm going to go ahead and take the Ondu Giant as just a fixer, and that lets me essentially splash these 2 white cards if I decide to. And in this pack, there's really not much. 11 mana is too high to actually reliably reach, and I'm definitely not in the kind of deck that could reach it. So at this point, I could grab this just to have ways to pull up my few auras, which I think I'm actually going to do, as I can then pull up Narcolepsy as a answer. Of these cards, in this format, Glory Seeker, as far as I know, is very bad, so there's no point in taking that. I'm leaning towards splashing white, so I definitely don't want to be trying to grab something like that. I think I'll take this. It might make the deck, it might not. It's usually handy when it does make the deck. In here, I think I'm going to go ahead and just take this guy. He's decent, like I said. When I played him last time, he worked out okay. If I decide I need a counter, I can grab one. I guess I have one there. There's a chance I'll actually run the Demystify eventually, as there are all the totem armors going around, so you might want that. We'll see. Hopefully I can pick up some more fixing to get this in a better issue. I guess I can treat the Agent Sturians as fixing as well, so I may keep that in. We'll see where the deck goes at this point. So we have this, which is Obviously very powerful. Momentous Fall is also very good. They both provide advantages. I'm going to go ahead and look at the prices of them real quick. Alright, so none of them are really worth anything, so the other cards that might be worth noting is this guy is just absolutely insane. We can get him going. The Battlement, someone else would be happy to get. I'm not in that style of deck, so wouldn't be the best choice for me here. Oust also can be quite handy. I think at this point I just take the Deathless Angel, though, as if I can resolve that, I can do quite well. It also means that I'm probably going to want to focus on fixing some more. So in this pack, we have a Conditional Tapper, which isn't that bad. I think the obvious winner, however, is this card. It's one if you resolve and untap, you're pretty much going to win, as it just becomes a huge flyer and draws you a bunch of cards. So I'll go ahead and take that. So this is one of those ones I was talking about earlier where if I have something that's a cantrip, I want to do something more useful. That's why I don't really like Fleeting Distortion as much. I prefer something like this. I was really hoping to get some fixing. So the question at this point is if I'd want to pick up the Tree Speaker, which I may not be able to reliably cast early, or if I want to pick up the Regress, which can act as removal in a sense, or be very tempo-oriented. I think I'm going to grab the Regress. I just don't know if I'd be able to play the Tree Speaker early enough for it to actually be useful. Here it's actually fairly simple. I'm going to pick the Prophetic Prism. That way I can afford to splash my white in there. I will take another Narcolepsy. I mean, the other option here is me to take Reality Spasm. The card has worked pretty well for me in the other draft I did. It's obviously very expensive, but it can very often just turn into a win the game. Alright, and here we just have a bunch of mediocre cards. I may not even run the first Might of the Masses. It really depends on how my deck turns out. In the same mindset, I don't know if I'll run the one Deprive that I have. In this case, I think I'm more likely to run the second Deprive, as I'm going to be base blue. Here I would really say the choice is between Lone Missionary, which is decent but it's a splash, and Naturalize. I like Naturalize, it's just it gives you some outs to cards, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Naturalize is one of those ones that's always good for the sideboard, so. And same with the Mystify, that'll definitely be a sideboard card. I want to avoid running the 2-3, vanilla 2-3 if I can. Same, I want to avoid running that. And this wouldn't be too bad, as I'd then have 4 white cards and a handful of green cards. I mean, I'm not going to run any of the cards I pick at this point. I guess I can pick that one as a potential sideboard card at some point if I needed to, but I don't think I will use it ever. And here I'll just pick another creature. It's a very okay creature. And here we're just getting to the end of stuff. When I get to these points, I just try and pick things that there's a small chance I'll play. But most of the time you're just picking whatever's the most valuable card or whatever card will hurt you the most. So as far as the deck itself goes, I don't think I want to run the Deprives. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of counter spells. I don't like having to hold it up. Especially if I plan to use my mana late, which is entirely possible that I want to. I have a few cards that make me want to use mana late. And so holding up, I mean, it works holding up there, but it doesn't work as well with the Invoker, for instance. So at this point, this is probably close to the deck I'll be running. I'll look at it some more once we get to the deck building section. It's possible I don't want to run both of the reinforced bulwarks, and instead I do want to run the Angel Heart, as it does give me ways to draw a card, although it's very, very slow, obviously. And the reinforced bulwarks just work very well to slow down the game. So up here, I'll just put aside the cards that I might consider playing. I mean, most of any of my blue I'll be willing to main deck. This is a format where it's pretty close to where you want to main deck and naturalize, but not quite there in my opinion, as it's just a little bit shy. There's a good chance you're running someone with enchantments, but they could be playing a red-black deck that has none. I don't know why it does it that way. Oh, I definitely won't be playing the Haze Frog. I think it's just far too expensive. With that, I think this is probably a deck that's okay playing. It's a little on the high side, but not too bad. I think 17 lands will be appropriate. As there are ways for me to use the land later, I might want to go up to 18. I think, however, I will go with this. We'll see what the game suggests for me. It is suggesting 5, 8, and 4. I really hate that you can't move this. Oh, there it goes. It was being stuck. Sorry. So if we look at what we have here, my green's probably a little bit more important, as I do have a fixer and a semi-fixer in green. So I will probably go down to 4 and go up to 5. I do think 8's a good number for the islands. Yeah, so I think this will go ahead and be what I play. I mean, this gives me essentially 6 sources of white between those two, and 6 sources of green. And then as well as let's see what happens there. So I'll go and give this a try, and we will see you in round 1.